You weren't invited. This brunch was for real family, my dad said with a smirk, swirling his mimosa like he hadn't just stolen $4,750 off my card the week before. My name is Morgan, and from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like a stranger in the very family you held together? I was standing at the entrance of the Elmwood Cafe, rain still clinging to my coat, watching my father, my stepmom, my brother, and even my aunt laugh over Belgian waffles like I didn't exist. No extra seat. No text. No, hey, you coming? Just the sting of silence and a waiter saying, "Sorry, ma'am. This table's full." The week before, I noticed a charge on my credit card for $1,750 transferred to an unfamiliar vendor. When I asked my dad, he shrugged, said he accidentally used the wrong card and would pay it back. "Don't make a big deal," he said. That was the problem. I never made a big deal. Not when they asked me to co-sign the loan. Not when I covered 3 months of utilities. Not when I put my career on pause to help during mom's chemo and still got called selfish for not staying longer. But this was different. Because that brunch wasn't just a meal. It was a message. They were full. I was extra. I stood there for a long second, looking my father in the eye. He didn't flinch, just smiled with the same face that used to say, "I'm proud of you," when I brought home straight A's. I didn't shout, didn't cry. I just said, clear and cold, "Then pay your own bills." I turned around, walked straight to my car, and opened the app I'd been building quietly for months, my paper trail. Every Zelle receipt, every Venmo, every loan agreement, every bank transfer I'd made to help out. The total? $61,000. That brunch was their celebration. Of using me. Of never planning to pay it back. But what they didn't know. I'd already started recording everything. Every call. Every message. Every lie. And by the time they figured that out, the bank account they were smiling over wouldn't even exist. I sat in my car with the rain tapping on the windshield, staring at my phone like it was the first time I'd really seen the numbers. $61,000. Not a typo. Not a guess. That was the total support I had given my family over 5 years, little drips that became a flood. $300 for Dad's car insurance. $1,200 when my brother's tuition was unexpectedly short. $900 to cover a hotel when they got locked out of their home. Gas money. Groceries. Just until Friday. And now, $4,750 siphoned off a card I'd trusted them with. They called it love. I called it theft with a smile. But I wasn't about to beg them for decency anymore. I had proof now. And I had a plan. I pulled up my call recording app. Every conversation I'd had with them over money was neatly stored, not because I expected to use it, but because some part of me knew that one day I'd need to remember exactly how it felt to be lied to by people who said they loved me. I forwarded the newest voice note to myself. "Dad, just run it on your card, babe. I'll pay you back when the bonus hits." Me, you said that last time. Dad, laughs, come on. What are families for? Apparently, to fund brunches I wasn't invited to. I drove straight home and opened my laptop. Pulled out every shared account they were still tied to. Family cell plan. Emergency credit line. Auto pay for their gas bill. Streaming services. Even my Amazon Prime, which they had been using like it was their birthright. I started revoking access. Quietly. One by one. But I didn't stop there. I filed a report with my bank for the fraudulent charge. Uploaded screenshots. Provided audio evidence. Typed a statement, clean and firm. Attached it all. I clicked submit. Then I called the bank's fraud department and told them calmly, "The account activity is unauthorized. I have the recordings to prove it." The woman on the line paused. "Do you want to press charges?" "Not yet," I said. Because first I wanted them to feel it, not just the freeze on the account, but the slow unraveling of their lifestyle. The one I paid for. And now, I was shutting it all down. By morning, the first domino had already fallen. I woke up to 12 missed calls, all from my stepmom, then one from Dad, labeled "Do Not Answer" in my phone. I didn't pick up. I let them spin in the silence they once shoved me into. Instead, I opened my banking app. The $4,750 charge had officially been flagged as fraudulent. The investigation was active. My card was deactivated and replaced. The funds were being reversed. Next, I got an alert. Joint utility account frozen. Because once the linked card failed, the bill bounced. No backup. No more Morgan the lifeline. That's when the texts turned nasty.
Dad.
What the hell did you do? This is embarrassing. They shut our power off this morning. We're family, Morgan. I almost laughed. Because family isn't just who you share blood with. It's who shows up when they don't need anything. And these people? They only showed up to eat. I poured my coffee slowly, savoring it, then pulled up the screen recordings. The ones I'd saved from late nights where I couldn't sleep, reviewing my own receipts like trauma footage. I organized everything into folders. Loans with no return. Shared accounts in my name. Audio clips of promises broken. Texts where I was guilt into giving more. This wasn't revenge. This was self-respect, properly documented. At noon, I got a call from the fraud department at the bank. We've reviewed the documentation you submitted. The rep said carefully. You weren't just helpful. This is airtight. I said nothing. She continued. We've escalated it. Since the account in question was being used under false pretense, we've locked it down while we investigate. Just so you're aware, it may impact your family's access to funds for the next few weeks. I understand, I said. Inside, I was shaking not from nerves, from relief. For years, I felt like I was drowning in their problems. Now, they were finally learning what it meant to stand without me. At 3:37 p.m., I got one last text from Dad. Are you recording everything or something? This is messed up, Morgan. I stared at the screen. My pulse didn't even flicker. Then I texted back.
Yes.
I recorded everything. And now, so has the bank. The typing bubble blinked for a long time. And then nothing. No reply. Just the sound of silence. A silence I had earned. That night I slept. Not the light, restless sleep I was used to, the kind where your brain replays every moment you were made to feel small.
No.
This was deep, dreamless, heavy. The kind of sleep that comes after finally letting go of dead weight. When I woke up, I felt different. Not lighter, exactly. Just clean. Like I had finally stepped out of someone else's story and walked back into my own. Then my phone buzzed. This time, it wasn't Dad or my stepmom. It was my brother Evan. He never called me unless he needed something, which meant, of course, he needed something. Morgan, he said when I picked up, his voice pinched. Why is Dad freaking out about the accounts being frozen? Because they were frozen, I said calmly, already sliding scrambled eggs onto my plate. Yeah, but he says you're blowing everything up. Like, going too far. Couldn't you have just talked to him first?
I did talk, I said.
He just wasn't listening. There was silence on the other end. Then he asked, so you're really cutting them off? I already did. He let out a breath. Damn. Was there something else? He hesitated. Yeah. I was wondering if you could spot me $200 till Friday. My card's not working, and I hung up. No explanation. No guilt. Just click. Because I realized something in that moment. This wasn't about a single brunch, or even the $4,750 they stole. It was about the entire structure I had helped build, brick by quiet brick, just so they could sit on thrones made of my sacrifice. I let them. For years. I handed over my energy, my time, my credit, and in return, they handed me absence, sarcasm, and empty chairs at crowded tables. No more. I spent the rest of the day working on something for me. A proposal I'd been too scared to submit to a boutique hotel downtown, a partnership for curated guest events. I hit send at 2:43 p.m. And right after, I looked out the window and whispered to myself, they only call you dramatic when they don't want the truth documented. Because I wasn't dramatic. I was prepared. And when the truth is on tape, they don't get to rewrite it. 2 days later, I was folding laundry when I heard it, a knock on the door. Not a polite tap. That sharp, aggressive kind of knock that says someone thinks they're owed something. I looked through the peephole. It was my father. I didn't open the door. "Morgan," he shouted. "Open up. We need to talk. This has gone too far." Gone too far? I leaned against the door, arms crossed, heartbeat steady. This was the same man who laughed over brunch while I stood drenched in the doorway. The same man who used my card and didn't even flinch. Now he wanted conversation? He kept knocking, kept raising his voice. "Everything's frozen. The bank won't release anything, and your mother's losing it. Evan's card declined at the gas station yesterday. What is this, some vendetta?" Vendetta. Interesting word for finally saying no. "I gave you everything," I said loudly through the door. "And you threw it away." "Morgan, come on. Don't make this public." I almost laughed. Public? You humiliated me in public. You excluded me in public. You stole in private, and now that the consequences are public, suddenly I'm the problem? I picked up my phone and hit record. "Say that again, Dad," I said calmly. "About the money. About the accounts." "What are you?"
Are you recording me now? He snapped.
"I've been recording since the brunch." Dead silence. "Why?" he asked, but his voice was different. Quieter. Unsure. "Because I've spent years being erased by you. I wanted to remember everything. Every word. Every laugh. Every lie." More silence. Then the footsteps. He left. I stood there frozen for a beat, then replayed the recording. Saved it to my cloud. Backed it up twice. Labeled it knock number 1. Later that evening, I got a call from the bank. They confirmed that the fraudulent activity was not only validated, but because my name was attached to multiple financial accounts showing misuse, a freeze had been placed across 2 of their major lines of credit. "And with your evidence," the agent said, "we've initiated an internal investigation. There may be legal action coming." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "Thank you." Because this wasn't revenge. It was accountability. And if the truth shook the ground they walked on, they should have thought about that before they built their house on my name. The next morning, I opened my inbox to something I hadn't expected, an email from the hotel. Subject: "Proposal approved. Let's talk details." I sat there, blinking at the screen. This was the same hotel I'd been too scared to pitch to just weeks ago. The same one my family once told me was out of my league. They said things like, "People like us don't get into places like that, and stick to safe jobs, Morgan. You're too sensitive for that world."
And now, they wanted me.
I poured myself a cup of coffee and replied with a simple, "I'd love to talk. I'm available Tuesday morning." Then I closed my laptop and breathed in something new. Freedom. Not the loud, rebellious kind. The quiet kind. The kind that settles in your bones when you realize you don't have to prove anything to anyone anymore. That afternoon, I got another call, this time from my dad's bank. A compliance officer. Polite, professional, direct. "We've completed our review of the documentation you submitted. Your recordings and digital receipts match the reported discrepancies. We'll be contacting the account holders regarding next steps, including potential reimbursement and further inquiry." "Are they aware yet?" I asked. The woman on the phone paused. "Not officially, but their accounts remain inaccessible. We expect contact very soon." I hung up slowly, heart steady, hands warm. And just like that, it hit me. They still thought I was the daughter they could guilt into silence. They didn't realize I'd evolved, not out of cruelty, but out of exhaustion. I wasn't seeking revenge. I was just done being their ATM with a pulse. That night, I pulled out my old notebooks, the ones where I used to scribble event design ideas and venue sketches, afraid to ever show anyone. I flipped through the pages like meeting an old version of myself I finally respected. At 9:42 p.m., my phone buzzed again. My brother. This time, the message was different. "They're freaking out. Dad says the bank might press charges. He wants to know if you'll talk to them. You're the only one who can fix this." I stared at the screen, then typed one line. I didn't break it. I just stopped holding it together. And I meant it. Because I wasn't the family's fixer anymore. I was rebuilding something far more important.
Me.
The fallout was spectacular. By Sunday morning, the family group chat, which I'd muted long ago, exploded with panicked messages. I didn't even have to open it. My lock screen lit up like a fire alarm.
Dad.
This is serious now, Morgan. The bank's investigating us. How could you do this to your own family?
Mom.
I didn't even know what was going on. Why are you dragging me into this? My uncle, the one who always played neutral, even chimed in. You really recorded your own father? Cold-blooded. It would have stung once.
But now?
Now it just proved what I already knew. They never saw me as a daughter. Just a resource.
A tool.
Something to use until it stopped working, and then resent for needing repair. But what hit hardest wasn't the noise. It was the silence from Evan. No apology. No, I'm sorry for asking you for money again. Just absence. The same absence I felt at that brunch. At every family photo where I was the one behind the camera. Every holiday where I brought a dish and left with a bruised heart. So I did something that took me years to learn. I left the group chat entirely. Not in anger. In peace. Because healing isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet click of a leave conversation button and the soft realization that you're not obligated to carry people who would watch you drown. That afternoon, I met with the hotel team. We sat around a table overlooking the city skyline. I brought mock-ups, proposals, fresh ideas. I was nervous, but in a way that felt electric, not paralyzing. And halfway through the meeting, the creative director said, "You've clearly put in a lot of work. This isn't just a pitch. This is vision. We want to move forward." I smiled. Not the fake smile I used to wear to keep the peace. A real one. The kind that feels like home. That night, I walked past the Elmwood Cafe. The same one where they told me, "You weren't invited." There was a couple laughing at a table near the window. The waiter set down champagne flutes. I paused for a second, remembering the sting, the humiliation. Then I turned and walked on. Not because I had anything to prove, but because I had nothing left to explain. Their brunch was their warning shot. But my silence? That was the storm that followed. It happened on a Monday. The bank sent me a final notice. Investigation closed. Funds restored. Liability assigned. Attached was a PDF, a formal letter outlining how the fraudulent use of my accounts had been traced back to intentional misrepresentation. They used words like unauthorized, documented misuse, and the one that made me sit down slowly. Permanent closure of associated accounts. They weren't just locked out anymore. They were erased from every financial tie to me.
And with it?
The life they'd built on my back. Around noon, I received one more call, this time from a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Silence at first. Then a familiar voice cracked through. "Morgan, it's Dad." I didn't say anything. He sighed, shaky and worn. "We got the notice. The bank froze everything. Your mother's losing her mind. We can't access our savings. They said you submitted recordings. Is this really what you wanted?" I could hear birds chirping in the background. Somewhere far away, life was going on, unaware that his version of it had just collapsed. I waited. Then I said, with no malice, no heat, just truth. I wanted to stop bleeding for people who watched me bleed. He said nothing. So I continued. "You erased me over brunch. Mocked me in public. Stole from me in private. You never apologized. You never saw me. You only saw what I gave. So now, I've given you nothing." A long pause. "You've burned a bridge you didn't build," I added. "And that account you loved so much? It had my name on it. Always did." "I didn't think you'd go this far," he whispered. "I didn't think you'd go that far," I replied. And I hung up. For the final time. That night, I lit a candle in my tiny apartment and curled up with a notebook, the same one I once used to keep track of their debts. But now I used it for something else. Planning my first event. Solo. Fully mine. No borrowed credit. No apologies. I wrote down themes, colors, menus. Joyful things. Things that never depended on someone else's guilt. And when I looked at the cover of the notebook, I smiled. I'd scribbled something new on it weeks ago. For things that build, not bleed. Because what they never understood was simple. I wasn't their backup plan. I was the foundation. And when I walked away, everything crumbled like it should have long ago.